Hello, welcome to Sheffield Board Gamers official podcast. This is episode 8. Today I'm joined by Tom Cauldron. Hello, Tom.
Hello.
And I'm also joined by Tom Lovell as well. Hello, Tom.
Hi.
Hello, both the Toms.
Yeah.
So we're part of the Board Games Club in Sheffield, and we play lots of different board games. We meet twice a week in Sheffield to play games. So we're going to talk about some of the games we've been playing recently. We've also got a question of the week as well, which is gaming over the holidays. What kind of games are you going to play over the holidays? But first of all, I've got some quite exciting news. I met Ian Livingstone, one of my gaming heroes. Ian's the guy who wrote the Final Fantasy books. Not the Final Fantasy, Fighting Fantasy.
Yes, very different.
If you remember those, the Choose Your Own Adventure game books. And that's why I was in Leeds. He was doing a book signing. There's a new one just been released. So he was there doing the signing for that. So I went down to see him and say hello. It was a really interesting evening. He was in like a little bookshop, and upstairs there was a little cafe. And we went up there and he did like a little presentation. He'd got a projector, so he gives a bit of the history of the books themselves and of him. Obviously, he's had a long career. He started off. He was one of the first importers of Dungeons and Dragons into the UK. So that's how he started out. He was importing it from the US and then selling it in the UK. And then from there, he opened a Games Workshop with Steve Jackson. Sold that in 1991. And move on to other things, video games. He'd been involved with Tomb Raider, and from there, all sorts of things. So, it was great to meet him. He did a little presentation, did a bit of history. We had a Q&A session, so there were a few people there sort of answering questions and things. And then after that, we went downstairs and he did a book signing. I took some of my old Fighting Fantasy books that I've got, the ones that I had when I was a kid, yeah.
I definitely had quite a few of those. They're a big part of my childhood. Yeah,
and got him to sign one, and also picked up a couple of new ones as well. So that was really good. He's a really nice chap. I enjoyed meeting him and saying hello, and he gave an interesting sort of talk on the history of the books and everything. So yeah, it was really good.
Did you always do the thing with those where you had like 5 fingers in holding places, so you
the 5-finger bookmark.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
so you weren't quite doing it the right way, but I'll make that choice. Oh no, I won't make the choice. I'll go left instead of right. I think everyone did that.
I found out as well that you can download. These are all apps now, so you can download them on your tablet or on your phone. So if you don't have the physical books and you don't want to do the bookmark thing, you don't have a dice handy or a pad, for writing your character sheet down, you can download them. You can play them on iPhone, Android.
Yeah.
But the old school, obviously, the books are still in print. They're all still in print. They've all been reprinted, so you can pick up any of them now. The Warlock of Firetop Mountain was the first one. I think the latest one is Assassins of Valencia, I think. So I got a couple of those. I think it's because of gaming in general, it's getting a bit of a resurgence in the interest in these kind of things.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of done a couple of Choose Your Own Adventure games based on the old Choose Your Own Adventure book.
Yeah,
I don't know if that was the same authors or was that a separate thing? I can't remember.
There have been quite a few, yeah.
But anyway, I haven't actually tried the game. I think we had a look at it at Expo, but we haven't actually played it. I don't know if any of you have seen it.
Is that the what's it called now? It's got like a white box.
Yeah, the box sort of mimics the art from the books. If you remember the old Choose Your Own Adventure covers.
Yeah, I have actually played that. Yeah, there's 2 out. I've played the first one, Mystery of something. Anyway, yeah, I played the first one. It's basically the book, but on cards.
Yeah.
So each paragraph is on a card, and you just flick to the card to read the next bit. So it was a bit strange in that regard that it is just exactly the same as a Choose Your Own Adventure, basically, but you get cards instead of having it in a book. So it was a bit weird that way. But I enjoyed it. It was a good story. A bit different to the escape room ones. I was expecting it to be more puzzly and more escape room, but it wasn't like that. It was more like the Choose Your Adventure and choose like which path you wanted to go down, and you got different items and things, and there was a bit of combat with fighting and things. So what have you guys been up to?
Well, the big thing I've had in my gaming life is a weekend where I went down to Nottingham for an event called ProtoSpiel. There's been lots of these going on around the world. There's a few of them happening in America, but they're all called ProtoSpiel. But what it is lots of aspiring designers bringing along their prototypes and just spending all day playing each other's prototypes. And it was an intense day. I played a lot of people's games and was expected to have an opinion about them.
Yeah.
So it was just...
Did you have opinions?
I did, yes, I had opinions. But you just constantly bombarded with all these ideas coming at you from every direction all day. It was a really sort of rich experience, but it was exhausting. I was knackered by the end. But there's so many people.
Very much like a large meal kind of thing.
Yes. But it was fascinating doing all these different games. So many ideas out there that I haven't seen in published games yet. So there's still lots of innovation still to come. It's great. It's a fantastic experience, really. I played a couple of my games there, obviously, but
I'd wanted to go, so I'm massively jealous of that
yes.
because life had happened and it was just not a possibility for me to go. So it sounds like for next year I need to get my life in order and make sure I go.
They are planning to do it again next year, and I'm sure there'll be other events similar springing up around the place. So yeah, if you do get a chance to go to one of these, definitely go. If you've got a design you're wanting to test, it gets really thoroughly tested by people who know what they're talking about and are prepared to rip it apart, which is great.
Yeah. Well, you've got stuff at the playtest zones in conventions such as, I think, HandyCon do them, AirCon, obviously UK Games Expo. But I mean, how does it compare to where you've got almost anyone who turns up for the playtest UK-based sessions and the ProtoSpiel? Is it designers go to the ProtoSpiel and so therefore they're really onto their gaming and how to give good constructive feedback?
It was definitely a more concentrated level of design knowledge there. I mean, when you just sit down for a table at Playtest UK thing at the Expo or whatever, then you tend to have general punters grabbed and sat down next to you, and obviously they know the games, but they've not sort of been properly into the design side of it, and they might go, yeah, that's good. But whereas the level of detail and knowledge about which tiny cog here and there is going wrong or going right is really great. I mean, were you the book that Ian Livingstone was doing? Is that the one he's written with James Wallace? Because they've done one about sort of the history of board games, I think.
Yeah, he was selling that there as well. Board Games in 100 Moves with James Wallace.
Yeah, James Wallace. He was one of the designers there, trying an interesting-looking word game. So it was nice meeting him.
Was James and Sophie from Needy Cat Games there?
I believe so. There were a couple of people who were publishers, or representing publishers. And they had a little badge that said publisher on them, so they were very popular to get people wanted them to try their games. I know that I saw in the week afterwards someone put on Twitter that they'd signed another game, and it was one that I'd seen at that ProtoSpiel, so I don't know if they'd done all the deals there.
I think Simon and Aidan from Duran
Yes,
Games
they were there,
went there and signed something.
There was someone from Alicat.
I'd been asked if I wanted to go as a publisher, but I'm just not in the place to sign people at the moment. At the moment, I'm struggling dealing with my own stuff anyway, with everything else that I'm getting on with, which I'm sure I'll come to in a bit. So,
you've had a busy few weeks yourself, haven't you?
Yes. For those listeners who don't know, I've got a new job and it's not in Sheffield anymore. So I'll not really be able to say that I'm part of the Sheffield Board Games Club anymore. I've been working in Gloucester and trying to sort of move family. So selling house, buying houses, getting new school for my son and everything. It's just been a wee bit mental. And also making sure that I've fulfilled people's orders for the Six Gun Showdown Kickstarter. So it's just been very, very full on. But I'm glad it's now the holiday period. And I also hit 40 over the last few weeks.
Congratulations.
I'm now lying about my age considerably more than I used to.
Congratulations is the right word, I'm not sure.
I don't know. Find the just for men and pretend it's not great. It's experience.
40 is a good age. In the prime of your life.
I would agree with that.
So yes, so that's been me. I was at as I was down in Gloucestershire, and the other joy of living with one's mother at the age of 40 for a few weeks, just whilst sorting out relocating. So I went to the Gloucester Board Games Social, which is held at Wednesdays in Gloucester at the Warehouse, and so I kind of have been board games clubbing, but just not in Sheffield. And they're a lovely bunch of people, and I played a good number of party games when I was there. So some that I brought along, and some that they had. So yeah, good bunch of people. Very similar in respects to what happens in Sheffield. They're really friendly. They've got something. They have a meet on the Meetup app. They've got something to sort of attract people, and they've always got one person who's kind of the designated spotter for the evening, so that if there's anyone new sort of wanders in, looks a little bit lost, they can start directing them to people. And just like in Sheffield, really friendly, and will introduce people to games. Like any place where you're going to game, getting there nearer to the start helps, because people haven't started games. Turning up half an hour in, there tends to be sort of games playing, and you have to wait a little bit before you get to start something. But I ended up playing the first time I was there. I think it was Skull, it was Love Letter, and there was something else which name I've forgotten. But we got through a number of games because they were sort of the, relatively speaking, quicker games. And I really was quite lucky because I got to play Bang for the first time at one of these. And as you know, I've designed a Wild West shootout game, and everyone kept on asking me, does it play like Bang? And I don't know, I've never played it. I now can say I've played Bang, and no, it doesn't. So yes, that was good for me.
So I've played the dice game. Was it the dice one, or was it the card one that you played? Because it's two, I think.
It was the dice one.
The dice one,
where you're, and I felt it was very similar to sort of Werewolf / Avalon.
Yeah, it's like a hidden identity type thing.
Insofar as whichever character you are, there's the hidden identity, but there's kind of almost a random spray of bullets, because not quite, because whatever dice you roll, that does affect kind of what you're doing, but who you're targeting. I liked the ideas behind it, and thought that it was a nice, neat game to just jump into. I think there's a lot more kind of a meta game potentially with a group that you can play with if you are regular players. So if you are the sheriff, this is what you're expected to do. If you're the renegade, this is what you're expected to do. And so therefore you might fall into traps of, well, actually you're acting in X or Y type of a fashion, so therefore I can deduce what role you are, maybe. So I don't know how easy it is for sort of long-time games. You said, Rick, in the spiel that you've been playing Planet, which I've seen and looks really, really tasty.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on
Oh,
that?
is that the one with the magnetic dodecahedron?
Yeah, if you've seen this, you probably recognise it. Yeah, you get a giant D12, basically.
Big chuffing dice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a big D12 that's like the size of your fist, and you kind of stick magnetic tiles onto the side. So I managed to pick this up because it's quite a cheap game anyway, but it was on special offer. So I managed to pick it up for a bargain price. I haven't played it before, so I just picked it up on a whim, thought it looked cool. And it does look cool. You're kind of drafting these tiles that have got terrain types on them. So it might be snow or desert or forest or something else. A combination of those terrains. And you're picking a tile out of this draft, and then you're putting it onto your planet somewhere. And you can put it anywhere. You can orient it whichever way around you want. And what you're trying to do is there's a row of cards that are set out, and the cards will give you points based on the biggest area of snow or the biggest area of ocean that's not touching a forest or that is touching a forest, things like that. So you're trying to work out which tiles you want to take, how to orient them so you can get these areas that are going to score you the most points. And basically, you just draft 12 tiles, put them onto this planet, and then you score it at the end. Yeah, it's really streamlined. It plays 2 to 4 players. Takes about 45 minutes ish. It's so it's fairly quick as well. It's got a good toy value because it's quite physical. You're kind of holding this planet and turning it round and trying to get the right areas. You can see all the cards that are laid out that are going to be going scoring. So on turn 2 and 3, you've got an idea of there's going to be a lot of ocean scoring soon, so I need to build up my ocean areas and things like that. So it's not a massively complicated and long game. It's quite a family game, I think. So this is one that you could play with pretty much anybody. I really enjoyed it. It's good a good experience to sit down and play it. Yeah,
try that sometime.
Yeah, that's kind of on my list because I've been, and we'll get onto it, the gaming over Christmas, but over the holiday period, I've been collecting more family-friendly games because when I'm at home, I have a 6-year-old to play with, nearly 7-year-old. So yes, those kinds of things are more appropriate to play with him. So going back to turning 40, I had a few games given to me, one of which was Century Golem Edition, which I seem to recall we discussed a few podcasts back. And yes, it is entirely your fault, Rick, for saying how pretty it was. I played the game, I liked it, but wasn't so keen on the artwork. Yeah. And yeah, I quite like that one. I like the sound of they'd sorted out the artwork. And you're right. So yes, I now own that, and it is entirely your fault, Rick. But I also picked up Cracks of Quedlinburg, which is a game that I loved and just been playing friends or other people's copies. So that's another one. And Santorini, which we probably haven't talked about. It was friends introduced it to me a few months ago, and it's really nice and easy to play.
It's a lovely game.
It's a gateway game at Tabletop Scotland. So, have you two gents played it at all?
I have. In fact, Paul and I had that out the other night and had like 7 games in a row. Just having totally different sets of gods each time. So, which makes it a completely different game. We could probably describe what it is. Really, it's at heart an abstract game. The basic thing is on your turn you move. You've got 2 pieces on a grid, and the other player has got 2 pieces. It's mainly a 2-player game, but you can play it more. So on your turn, you move one of your pieces, and then next to that piece, you build a thing. The towers have a base, a middle, and a top, and then there's also a dome that can go on top, which can block it off. When you move, you can go up or down. You can go up 1 level, or you can move down, or you can move sideways. And the way you win is by finally, after all this moving and building and moving and building, if you ever manage to move one of your people to the top level, the 3rd level of a building, then you won. Unless you've got one of these god cards, which entirely changes the game. So, like, you're moving in a different way, or you're scoring in a different way, or you're preventing the other person from building on some places or something. It's crazy the number of powers that you got, because every power that you look at, you see, you go, oh my god, that's so overpowered. But then your powers, your god is overpowered, and your opponent's god is overpowered, and so they both end up balanced in some crazy magic way.
Yeah.
I don't know how they did it.
Well, it's based on the Greek pantheon, isn't it?
Yeah, so every power is a god.
They've got 30 gods in there. So with my son, we've been playing just the basic one without any gods to start off with to give him the hang of things.
Yeah.
And then moved on to just keeping a couple of them. So recently, he was playing with Hermes, which, as everyone knows, Hermes' winged boots moves around a lot. So your person can move an unlimited amount on their turn, as long as they stayed at the same level.
Instead of just moving one space, it can move as many spaces as you like. That's a massive change.
It's a massive change, but the restriction is you can only stay on one level.
Uh-huh.
So if you can move about on ground level, that's fine. But if you want to go up by one level, then it's only move one square up a level. Similarly, whilst you can move down 1 or 2 levels at a time, and that's free, if you're going to move down a level, again, you can only move one square. So you've really got to plan how you plan your moving. Even though it's really powerful, you can be blocked because as soon as you've got to move up a level or down a level, then you can't move so much. So people have to work that one out. So that's why someone was playing with those, and I was playing with Hephaestus, the god of blacksmiths, and you can build an additional block, so you can go from nothing to 2 blocks if you wanted to, or 1 to 3. And again, giving you a different tactical element. But that helped my son learn the core principles because he was able to focus more on how to move and also knew that I was doing more building and things. And so it's really nice to teach to younger people because the concepts are so simple and you can play it without the god cards or add them in and add those different levels of thinking involved. I really like it.
It is a very good game. And very pretty.
Yeah.
Because they've got a completely unnecessary whole big plastic island that you're playing on instead of just a 5x5 grid, or 6x6 or whatever it is. It's just got this big plastic construction, which is great.
Well, to be fair, you've got that big unnecessary plastic construction, but if you just had the board and all the plastic...
Oh yeah, the plastic pieces just look like beautiful white buildings.
Houses that you're building. You've got a lot... The plastic pieces are really good. Yeah, but I think without the raised board, I don't think it would have worked. It would work so well. Plus, it makes it really easy that when you're finished, you just slide the board easily, and they all come down, and it resets really easily. Especially if you've got a 6/7-year-old, they love to just be able to tip it on one side, reset, let's go again. Thank you, Dad. So, and I found, again, we'll hit on it more later, but as it can be played 3-player, myself, my wife, and my son can play, and because my son is not quite so good at learning how to block other people so much, there's a bit more squabbling between myself and my wife. She keeps me in check, I keep her in check, and so actually it helps balance more if you've got mixed abilities, for want of a better word, or just the fact that they are a youngster and so learning some intricacies with gaming. So I like that element with it can be played 3-player as well, quite nicely from the box.
And it's very quick as well, which is always good.
Yes.
Have you played this one, Rick?
No, I haven't. No, it looks really nice. I'd like to try it.
I seem to remember that when it was on Kickstarter, enough people at the club were interested that they ended up sort of putting in an order for like 8 games for a cheaper price or something.
Yeah, we ordered a lot all at once. Yeah.
So there was a lot of them around at some point.
Yeah.
So I definitely recommend it for people's post-Christmas list.
It is a good one.
So yes, one of the other games I've been playing is one that turned up in my mailbox, which was Weird Alchemy, which is a very quick... It's a deck of cards. There's sort of like 50 odd cards in there. I think it's 54 or something. Really quick to play, and it's all about moving cards about between people, trying to get rid of your abominations, your monsters. Because if there is an explosion, because the alchemists have screwed up, if you get left with a monster that you play them out in front and you score points. But the aim of the game is to not score points, and you can counteract any monsters if you get all 3 of a set. If you don't get the set of 3, then they're going to cost you. So I've played it 2-player, and whilst it works, I think technically it's a 2-player game. In reality, once you've got 3 or more, we played it with 5 people. It is much more of you want a lot of people. So 4, 5, 6, 7, up to 8 people, they'd be great for this game. And it's a nice, quick game to play. And as it's a deck of cards, it's really easy to transport. The artwork is beautiful. And yes, as I got the Kickstarter version, I've got the shiny things and all the extra bits. But
I seem to remember you showing us this one, when it was on a Kickstarter, and the artwork is fantastic.
The artwork's really nice. the gameplay, it does what it needs to. It's not in trying to pretend that it is a heavyweight game. It is something that I can just take with me and go, right, I've got a couple of games that can play with lots of people and help fill in the gaps of an evening. Great to start things off or finish things off and try to throw weird abominations to different people. So, yes, I've been particularly happy with getting that in the post. Yes, now that it's Christmas break, I'll start getting onto some of my other Kickstarter purchases that have arrived. And Cracks of Quedlinburg, I think that's been covered here before. So again, very pretty. I just like it, and the fact that I do chemistry as well, it just fits me quite nicely that you've got Mad Cat Chemist. So.
Yeah, Quacks is a really good game, yeah. It's the one where you're kind of digging in a bag, isn't it? It's a bag building where you put tokens in a bag and then you pull them out and put them into a kind of spiral track to try and get as many points without blowing up. Have you tried any of the extra books? Yeah, have you just stuck to the standard books, or have you tried any of the other ones?
That is my plan over the coming week or so, was now that the people that I play with have played it, let's try the different combinations and also flip over onto the other side.
Yeah,
so you've got two different sides of the card. So where you've got the test tubes and things, because again, back to the chemist part of me, like mucking around with sticking stuff in test tubes. That really appeals. So
it's really good that it scales that way. It starts off moderately basic with some like basic tokens with effects. And then it gets more complicated as you put different abilities in there, and like you say, you can flip the board over, and that gives you another option, doesn't it? When you're pulling your tokens out and things. So yeah, it's good that it scales and it changes depending on. So once you've played it a bit and you've got used to it, you can go on to the next bit then to make it a bit more more interesting. Yeah,
exactly. And that's kind of also why I was mentioning it as well, because it works so well with Santorini. Santorini with all the different gods. Whilst you're playing the same game, you're not quite playing the same game because of the different combinations that you can use. It's got a lot of variation from just a box.
Yeah, it is a good one, that one. I like that one. What about you, Tom? What have you been playing?
Oh, well, I'll just pick out a couple of games that I've tried a few new ones lately. When we went to the Treehouse the other day for our club excursion. It wasn't really an excursion, it was just a club night where we didn't have the pub. I just tried several games that I'd been wanting to try. We got out Just One, which is an award winner.
Yeah, I'd be interested in this one, yeah.
This one's
good.
It works really nice. It's just a really simple game, but it's just one that works really well. It sort of seems like it must have been done before, and it's sort of similar things have been definitely out there. It's just one person's got a word. They don't know what it is. Everyone else does, and they've got to give a clue to that word to the guesser. So the clue, the word might be something like Moscow. So everybody secretly writes a word on their plastic wipe clean board with their wipeable pen, and then before they show it to the person who's got to guess, they compare their words, and anyone who's got the same word, that just gets erased and they don't get it. So you as the guesser, you might see, if you're playing with four other people, you might see four words. Fantastic. Russia, city, something else about
Mule.
Moscow. So,
Red.
Mule, yes. Great. Or you might just see one word because all the others have written Russia, and the only person who's got a word unique has written something like city. So you're just saying city, and you've got to try and guess something. So yeah, you've got as a guesser, you've got sometimes where it's really easy, sometimes where it's really difficult. You've got to try and just that little thing of not having to do the same word as someone else means you've got to try and be clever. You've got to try and think of a way of cluing that which someone else won't do. and it works really well. You just work through a certain number of cards, see how many you manage to guess, and then see how many points you got at the end. So it's totally cooperative. It moves around who's doing the guessing and who's doing the cluing. And it goes really quick, and it's really fun, and it's just worked really well. I've played one go through it the other night, and then when we went to the library games event, because once a month the Central Library, which has a board game section, they have a board games night there. They had just one out there as well. So I said, all right, yeah, I just played this yesterday. But I was just watching people play there, and it was great. Because just watching it, it's a very good spectator game as well.
Yeah,
because you're watching it and you're thinking, oh, I'd give this clue here. Or you're just looking at people's clue and going, what are they trying to say? What would I guess here? It's good for groups.
It is quite good, yeah. I watched you play it, yeah, and it was good fun watching everybody think about what clues they were going to give, yeah.
Similar to code names, really, isn't it? By the sounds of it.
Similar, yes, because you've got to try and be clever with cluing, but you don't have to. I mean, all you got to think of is one word to give an indication of one other word. So it's a lot simpler. You don't have to try and link things together or anything.
Do you think you need quite a lot of players to play this?
I think the more the better. I mean, you can play it with three players.
I was thinking like 3 or 4.
It said 3 to 7,
yeah.
And I think it'd be best at like 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
I think it's a good one.
Yeah.
Cool.
Did it win a prize this year, or was it just nominated?
No, I think it won Spiel des Jahres. I think.
Yeah.
Oh, was that the winner? Yeah.
Yes, no, it was the winner, Spiel des Jahres. And having had a look at the font of knowledge, which is Board Game Geek, or at least close enough of font of knowledge, apparently it was originally called We Are the Word, before Repos Production bought the rights and adapted it. So, yes.
Yeah, I think good call there. It's a simple game. All you need is a simple name. It makes it sound really deep and meaningful, but it's not. It's just a silly, quick game.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds really good. Yeah, I'd like to play that one. I haven't played it yet, but it sounds quite cool. Sounds like it's one of those so simple games that you don't really need any components to play. You just need like a bit of paper and a pen and somebody to pick a clue, really.
Yeah. Well, again, this feels like something that would be great over the holiday period. I know we keep on dipping into it, but it's simplistic rules that people can just basically pick it up, unwrap it on Christmas Day morning, and then in the afternoon go, right, family, whether you're gamers or not, just get cracking.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just the rules just make you be slightly clever, but discourage you from being too way out there because no one will ever get it. Like I was being really cryptic and giving a great clue for unicorn. I wrote Scotland, which is great if you happen to know that the heraldic beast of Scotland is a unicorn. If you don't, then I've just written a random word which is going to lead you in a totally wrong direction. So yeah, you just want to be just in that middle, that Goldilocks zone of cleverness, which is great.
Yeah.
Did you find that sometimes was that quite a common thing where you got more than one clue? Then is it quite a rare thing because people are trying to figure out their own things, or is it more common?
I think that's probably going to be different with different groups, to be honest.
Yeah, well, to be fair, just thinking about that, it's like, well, actually, yeah, unicorn, I was thinking, there's lots of thoughts that I had. It's like, they're 2 words or they're 3 words. And it's like, so I can imagine how it's that tricky element of you're restricted to just the one word to use to give the hint.
Yeah, and you think of the obvious stuff and then you're kind of doubly guessing yourself because you're thinking, oh, somebody else will have thought of that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then no one to put down the obvious one. Yeah. You're all gone for
Scotland.
Yes.
Well, one game that I've played, another game that I've played recently is one called Plague Inc.
Oh yes, I played this with you.
Yeah. This is.
I was going to say I've only played it on my phone.
Ah, right, okay.
Oh yes, they said it was an adaptation of a an app.
Yeah, it is. I know it is, or was an app or a game of some kind, but this is the board game. I think it is slightly different. It's kind of like Pandemic in that you've got a board with the world represented on it. It's split up into areas like North America, South America, Asia, Oceania, things like that. And basically, what you're doing, you're the diseases in this game, and you're kind of spreading out and spreading all over the world. So it's kind of the opposite of Pandemic, really. So it's not a cooperative game; it's definitely competitive. You get a board with a disease on it or a virus, and you get a special power along with that as well, which is quite cool. So everybody has like a slightly different power that you start off with, and you kind of put cubes out onto the board, onto these cities, trying to take them over. It's kind of an area control thing, so the more cubes you have there, the better. But other people are obviously competing for those areas as well. And you get points for the areas that control, and then you spend those points on upgrades. So on your board, you've got some spots for some upgrade cards that you can get. And these are things like sore throat, sweating, things like that. But they get the more...
Different methods of transmission.
No, these are symptoms, but...
symptoms.
Yeah.
Well,
you get...
Well, both, yeah.
The cheaper ones are quite like cold-like, but they get worse as they get more expensive. So you get things like cysts and total organ failure as you get more into the game, which is quite amusing to see what cards are in the deck. It's a bit of a grim theme, but it's so abstract that it doesn't really, it doesn't feel like you're killing millions of people. You're just putting cubes out on the board, really. So that was all right. It's quite good.
One player's special power was called Festering Corpses.
Yeah. You kind of upgrade your abilities throughout the game, and one of the cool things is that you've got some abilities already printed on your player board. You can kind of cover those up, so you might want to keep them because they start off quite good and quite powerful. But then as you go along, you've got the choice to cover them up if you find something better that you like more, or you can leave them uncovered and carry on using them. So there's quite a lot of choice in the ways that you can kind of evolve your disease to spread out and do things. You have to give yourself things like heat resistance and cold resistance, so you can go into certain areas. You have to make yourself either airborne or waterborne, so you can spread out a bit quicker, things like that. So they are practical kind of abilities that you can give yourself, as well as the ones that let you spread out a bit further. And basically just play for points. So it keeps going until the country deck runs out. And then there's a round end scoring where you get some bonus points for, having been in so many continents and things like that. And most points at the end wins. So I quite enjoyed this. It does look a little bit Pandemic, but it plays completely different. It's its own game, definitely. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I quite liked the different abilities of all the viruses. We actually played with the expansion as well. So the expansion adds in other things. So I was a fungus, for example, and one of my special abilities was like a spore attack where I could kind of burst out in a big ball attack, which is quite cool. And again, different to everybody else's. So I quite like the variety of the different the different powers that you had. It's good. I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it too. Yeah. I think it built up into a very nice
it does, yeah.
end game.
Yeah.
It sort of started slowly and sort of kept on getting more and more dramatic as we went through, which is good.
Yeah. It does have quite a good build up to it, because you start off and you're only like one or two areas, but by the end of the game the board's completely covered. You've got loads of abilities because you keep getting points. I think you spend those points. Is that right, Tom? Can you remember? You spend the points to get the abilities.
Yes, you spend points.
You get points for spreading out and being in control of areas, but then you spend those points to get the abilities. So there's a bit of a trade-off there. Do I spend 20 points on this really good ability, but it's going to let me do something really cool for the next couple of turns or whatever? So that's good as well. It's got a nice little dice in it as well. There's like a little D6 that you roll to try and control the areas, and it's white with like red flecks in it. So that's quite thematic as well. Yeah,
it looked like a really dirty dice that just been picked up off a abattoir floor.
But yeah, it was good. Yeah, I quite liked that. I quite like the little touches. I can recommend this one. It was a good one to play.
I've got this as a mobile phone game, and I've played it a few times. You've got 4 different levels, so you've got easy, normal, brutal or mega brutal, and you can play as a bacteria, virus, a fungus, parasite, prion, nanovirus, and a bioweapon, and they all play a bit differently. But you get the different symptoms which affect your infectivity, but also how severe it is and whether it's lethal or not. And so the aim for the mobile game is infect the world and then wipe them out. Because as soon as you start killing people and being nasty to the population, then the human population starts developing a cure for you against whatever disease you are. So it sounds like that won't work for multiplayer game, and they've adapted the principles quite nicely for a board game. So I'd be really interested in playing this one, having played the mobile game quite a few times.
Yeah. If you like the mobile game, it's a really good fit. I think it's published by somebody called Endemic Creations, and I think they're the guys who actually make the game as well. So it carries on the trend of games companies kind of releasing board game versions of their games, but not just like a rolling dice move on a board kind of thing. They put a lot of thought into it and made it a really good game.
Yeah, well, Endemic, the mobile game, there's lots of humour, and they've got special plague types. So you've got simian flu, which is the official movie adaptation of Planet of the Apes. They've got the necrovirus, which is, oh look, zombies. And so they do things that way, which are really quite cool. So they've got a sense of humour, these guys.
Yeah. The cards are a bit like that. Yeah, there's some event cards in there that do really cool things, and you can play those, and they're quite thematic. And there's a solo mode as well, so if you like one-player games, you can play the solo.
Oh, fantastic.
It doesn't take too long, it takes about 60 minutes. I think it took us a little bit longer when we played it, because we were
all new to it.
5-player, and we'd got the expansion in as well, so it was probably about 90 minutes, I think, altogether. But there's a deck of country cards, so it's kind of on a timer, so, no matter how long you're taking, it's going to run out, when that deck runs out. So that's what I've been playing. So our question of the week this week is, we're coming up to that time of year when families get together, you have a big lunch, you sit in front of the TV, you watch James Bond, and then somebody says, "Oh, shall we play a game?" So gaming with your family is the theme of this one, which we've mentioned previously. It's always a bit of a tricky one, because you'll have people that you play games with on a regular basis, and obviously they're used to certain mechanics and certain ways of playing games and things like that. And then there'll be other people that play, Chase the Ace once a year, and that's pretty much it. So if you have you got any plans to take some games with you and play games over the holidays with your extended family, or will you just veg out after lunch and just sit down and have a sherry?
There'll be a certain amount of vegging out and having a sherry. But yeah, I mean, I've got several of my family are descending on Sheffield and gathering at my dad's house over the Christmas period. And apart from one person who is completely anti any games, we're all
really
willing to play anything. I mean, my sister's coming up from Devon. She and her family are sort of they're not sort of serious gamers, because they have far too busy lives with 2 kids and 20 animals, dogs and cats and hamsters and things. But they do like playing games. They played lots of Carcassonne. My 10-year-old niece is really, really into Hanabi. Gets very serious about it. But yeah, they'll be up, and all my other brothers and sisters are willing to play anything. We don't really have a sort of tradition of any, right, it's 1 o'clock on a Christmas day, that means we get out Monopoly. We don't have anything like that. It's just, it's just something to fill in the day. They usually sort of rely on me to bring something interesting.
So your family kind of expecting a couple of games,
so. Are they? Probably nothing heavy, obviously.
No.
But I think last year we got out Code Names, which went down well. Had a game of 7 Wonders with a couple of the more gamery people.
Oh, really? Yeah. I think probably if your family is kind of in that gaming environment, you probably have family members who would be interested in that kind of thing. If you're into games, then probably, you've got other family members who would be interested in that kind of thing. Like you said, probably nothing too heavy, but sometimes, you can play bigger games as well. Like you said, Seven Wonders isn't exactly, it's not the most complicated, but it's not like a gateway game, is it, where you can just teach it to...
No, I mean, anyone who's not used to games will sort of glaze over a bit when you start explaining how the science cards work and things. Yeah.
So how did Seven Wonders go down then? Did everybody pick it up okay? Or
yeah, I mean, the first round, my brother-in-law, who is one of the cleverest people I know, has a PhD, he's a academic in marine biology. He said a couple of cards in, he was just saying, "I have absolutely no idea what is going on. I'm just putting down a card." But by the end, a few cards later, he'd completely got it, and I think he ended up either winning or coming second, so he got it in the end. It went down all right.
So you mentioned a particular person, or you might have people who think it's sort of beneath them, or they don't really want to play games. Would you try and convince them? Would you try and say,
no?
Do you want to? No, we've got this really simple game. It'll take 10 minutes. Would you want to play it, or do you just leave them to do whatever they want to do?
People can do whatever they want. No one's ever... I mean, the worst thing to do would be to try... go on, try it, go on. Yeah. I don't want to be a pushy person who forces people to do things they don't want to do.
Yeah, I agree.
A forced fun is the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. I struggle because I'm the most gamery type who's able to. If I... Possibly in a number of years' time when... my son's a bit older and my nieces are a bit older. My brother, who is also a bit of would be a gamey type, but it's the fact that his eldest daughter's 8. We've got to try and juggle games that they'd be happy to play as well. So it's knowing your audience, I think, is a key element.
Yeah.
It's exactly what you were saying, Tom. You don't want to force someone into playing a game they don't want to. It's that forced fun. It's all about making sure you've got the right games for the audience, which is why I've been, as I said earlier, curating the games that I've been trying to get, because whilst there's things that I'd love to play, if they're going to be sat in a cupboard because no one's going to play them with me, then, they're just pretty bits of cardboard at that point. So I want to have pretty bits of cardboard that get out of the box, get onto the table, and I play. My dad is now at the age of... whilst he could probably play the games, he's much more of the, I'm not sure, I think it's a bit complex. And I think he sells himself short for games that he could probably actually play, but just not got the confidence to try some things now. So, but we're mainly staying in Sheffield this Christmas because we're going to be packing and stuff, so don't have family coming up. But I've got a friend coming round and his family on Boxing Day. And so his son is only a few years older than mine. And so they can play games either with everyone else as a family, and you've got a more appropriate skill set to each other to be kind of competing with, or they could be playing games that they like to, and adults, we can play the more middle to heavyweight stuff and not kind of feel, well, the little ones are either going to get bored or not enjoy it as well. So we've tried to intentionally have a combination of people where you can play games and everyone gets the enjoyment of the type of game they like to play.
Yeah, that's a good point about knowing your audience, I think. Especially if you've got like a mixed group, you might have some children there and possibly older people as well. So it's tricky trying to pick a game, isn't it, that's kind of good for everybody, that everybody will enjoy. Yeah. Well, so let's say somebody turns up with Monopoly under their arm and says, right, I want to play this. Would you, or not necessarily Monopoly, I kind of maybe picking on that game a little bit, but something that you don't like that you wouldn't usually play. Would you give it a go? Would you play something that you've, that's more mass market that you've not played before that you...
To an extent, I've unfortunately played the mass market Loo game, which is you spin the toilet roll and then you have to flush the number of things that it says, and if you're unlucky it squirts you in the face, because my son thinks it is the best thing ever. So I have and will play those things. I'm tempted to actually get our copy of Monopoly out of the cupboard to play it over Christmas and then put it into a box, and because I think possibly with my son about to turn 7, he might be able to start getting the hang of it, or at least with some help. I don't know. So I'm going to give it a whirl just to see whether it's something that he'll enjoy. We've got my ancient copy of Ghost Castle. He loves that one. So I might give that one a whirl.
There are some more physical games, aren't there? Like you say, the funnier ones where I'm thinking more like there's one called Sprout Head where you kind of have a Velcro hat and people throw sprouts at you and you try and catch them on your head. There's the horrible one where you put that mouth guard thing in your mouth and it shows off your teeth.
Loads of those around.
Yeah, there's those kind of games as well, isn't there? They're not necessarily strategic or tactical. They're just kind of more amusing than anything else. Would you get involved if people turned up with those and started saying, "Let's play this"?
I think I
think Tom's already said yes, hasn't he?
I wouldn't absolutely refuse.
I wouldn't refuse, but I think I'd struggle if they turn up with the ones that involve dodging fake turds. A glorified water pistol I can cope with. Fake turd-based games is. But yes, I will pander to a 6-7-year-old. So yes, I probably would play them, but. Again, there's different levels of enjoyment factors, to be completely honest.
Okay, so we've had Christmas Day then. You played a few games with your extended family. They've all gone home happy. It's Boxing Day now. You've got the day off work. You're not doing anything. You're at home with your close family. Your partner and your son, as you say. That's some quiet time where you can kind of pick up like a 2-player game or a 3-player game that you've been meaning to try. Would you? Would you pick a game for that kind of time, for the more quiet, away from the family kind of time?
Yes. I've been playing more miniatures games with my son, so my wife will sometimes like to be able to go and read, and so we'd probably either be playing X-Wing, or I've started to go, and with X-Wing, I've been going simple, just these are your basic pilot cards to give them the hang of it, or something like the Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team, and he likes it because I've been doing that so that he does some of the painting. The painting, whilst he's not brilliant, it's a good practice for hand control, and so I've been encouraging that with some of the cheaper models you can get, and just go, well, actually, even if that's not brilliant, it's helping him with learning the fine motor skills of painting, but also he likes all the miniatures and the terrain put out, and it helps with his imagination and things like that. So we've been playing games like that as well as your board games.
I seem to remember last year, one of the days over the holidays, Paul and I spent a day just playing lots of games. It's a good time to have, when you've got these longer expanses of time, just to get out some of the games where you don't normally have time to get it out in the week, when you just have an evening. Like I think we had a game of Feast for Odin last Christmas. So it's nice.
Thematic as well.
Takes up an entire table.
That's a massive one, isn't it? Loads of bits.
It's a great game. Very big. Takes a long time.
What about traditional card games? Do you play like poker or Chase the Ace or anything like that?
We've in terms of sort of traditional family games, I think the games that our family has got a history of playing, we've always had a game called Racing Demons, which is multiplayer patience. So you've all got your own pack of cards, and you're going through them and putting, red queens on black kings and things. But then when you get out a card, you've got a shared set of piles in the middle. So if you've got a two of spades and someone else has got a two of spades and an ace there, and you're both racing to put it on the same pile. And, as long as you cut your nails, you're fine. There's been a few injuries. But yeah, it's that's one that we've played all our lives with the family. I think that's about it with card games. We've played a bit of the occasional bit of Pontoon.
Yeah. Shut Up and Sit Down have done a series on card games that don't suck. So just using a standard pack of cards. Yeah, they're really good. And Tom, you mentioned Skull earlier as one of the games that you've played. You can play that with just a regular deck of cards. You just need one that's a different colour, don't you, or something that's slightly different.
Really
so you could play
easy to do.
You can play those kind of things.
Effectively, you can say, well, you've got a deck of cards. You can play with 13 people and go, right, you're number 4, you're number 2, you're number 3, you're the kings or whatever, and say the heart is the skull or the spades are the skull or what have you. And so it's the same principle. You're putting something face down, and everyone knows that the danger one is that particular suit of that number. So yeah, I think it would work really well.
How about you, Rick? Do you have any traditional games that your family has always played?
Some of my family live away from Sheffield, so I'll be seeing my brother though on Christmas Day. We've been invited to his house for dinner, so I've been slowly introducing games. I think last year we played Timeline. I took that with me. We played that, and I have actually played with my sister-in-law Anomia. I don't know if you've heard of that one. Basically, it's like some cards with some words written on, and the word might be, country, for example. And they've got symbols on as well, and you're trying to match up. When the symbols match, you're trying to say the other person's card before they say your card. So it's a really broad category of countries, but when you're on the spot and they're trying to think of something, you're trying to think of a country and nothing comes to your head. It's kind of one of those games. So that's quite a good one. We'll probably play a couple of 2-player games with Tracy as well, my wife. So we'll probably break out Jaipur and maybe Ticket to Ride or something like that over the holidays as well. So looking forward to playing some of those.
Yeah, I got Sense of Ghosts come through a couple of weeks ago, so my wife likes the cooperative game, so I was going to try that as a 2-player co-op as well, because she also doesn't like playing against me, so the fact that it's a 2-player but it's co-op as well, I think will really again help having games that we can both play together.
Yeah.
I hope you don't mind losing quite a lot. We played Sense of Ghost on the easiest setting, and it took us like 5 or 6 games before we finally.
I will give her an advanced warning of that one, that we may die.
Okay.
A lot.
Yeah, you may die a lot.
So.
Yeah, cooperative games are probably a good one to introduce to family members, because that's something that's not typically, part of the standard sort of gaming, that you'd usually see.
Oh yes, Pandemic went down very well a couple of years ago when I.
That's a really novel thing, I think, to show people, if people are willing to sit down and play Pandemic or one of the easy ones like Forbidden Desert or Forbidden Island or something like that.
You've also got the legendary games where you are kind of trying to be the best out of the group, but you are playing as a team, really, and trying to get things sorted together. That one I found to be a bit divisive, because sometimes I've got one friend who loves legendary and wants to play it week in, week out. And whilst we love her, sometimes you need a breather. Just sometimes it's like, can we just put legendary to one side and play something different? Not kind of, we've finished Marvel Legendary, let's go on to Alien Legendary Encounters or Firefly or what have you. It's like, no, just try something different,
So that's the Marvel one. Is that the superhero one?
Marvel is the big one, because you've got your standard legendary, and then you've got so many different expansions that you can add all the different superheroes to. But you do have, I think there's a Buffy the Vampire Slayer version. You've got the Alien versions, which has got an expansion to do aliens and things. You've got Predator. I've got
quite a few then.
I've got the Firefly one, which the gameplay's okay. Unfortunately, a bit like Sense of Ghosts, from what someone's just alluded, there are points where you pick up the wrong card and you will just lose and just die. But it's nice. Unfortunately, the artwork and the card quality is horrendous. So I'm going to stop talking about it now before I really tear into it.
I think the theme, if you can find a theme that people like, that'll probably tempt people into playing a quick game as well. So if people are into superheroes, there's a lot of good superhero games. If people are into, movies or TV like Firefly and Buffy and things like that, there's usually, games that are really good that are themed around that. And, people are more willing to play it possibly if they know the IP than this abstract board game that, somebody's brought in and you don't know anything about. It's a good opener, isn't it? If they recognise the characters and the settings and things like that.
Yeah, and just tying the two things together, you've got the Top Trumps games, which if you know the IP, you go, oh, I have just picked up the Incredible Hulk for your Top Trumps. I'm going to go with strength, or whatever. You can kind of use your IP to go, well, actually, I know enough about this background that it helps you with a game like Top Trumps. So. I've just got a couple of packs of the Marvel superheroes ones. Might venture into Harry Potter as my son's beginning. I've read the first 3 books to him, and he likes them. Well, I had steam engines when I was young and airplanes, and so it didn't mean a damn thing to me what all these different steam trains were, which this is their tonnage. It's like, I don't care their numbers.
Yeah, I think I had the aeroplanes one, yeah.
But at least with the Marvel superheroes, we've got intelligence, strength, and speed, and you go, or agility. It's like, I've got Spider-Man, of course he's going to be agile, or I've got Mr. Fantastic, I know that he's a brain box. Those kinds of things, it works.
My first adventure in board game design, game design, was creating a Top Trumps game with my sister when we were about 7 or 8, I think.
Wow.
we had lots of different fictional spaceships. So you could compare the Enterprise with the Jupiter 2 from Lost in Space. Jupiter 2 was the worst ship in every single category. But yeah, that was a memory that came back the other day.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. If you do find a really good game that people really enjoy, it will linger in the memory, and it might even become a tradition later on. So next year you might find people coming in saying, "Oh, remember that game we played last time? That was really good. Come and play that again."
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So it's a good time to introduce people to these games and sort of show them what there is.
Yep. But then there are also the old traditional ones which have nothing to do with the modern board gaming scene.
Yeah.
I think the game that is most likely to be played this Christmas, pretty much 100% chance with my family, is charades. Not just normal charades, but hybrid charades, which has been sold as a game called Monikers. I don't know if you're aware of this, where you do charades in 3 different... Well, it's not charades. You've got 3 different levels of the clues. So you've got a set of people. So we all spend 10-15 minutes before the game, sort of all writing names on bits of paper and putting them into a hat. And then it's split into teams. Pick a name out of the hat, and you've got to get your team to get it. The first round is telling them about it. Famous Frenchman wore a hat. He was a leader. He was the emperor. He was Napoleon. Yes, well done. And then the second round, you're only allowed to say 3 words: French, emperor, hat, and everyone says Napoleon. And then the third round is the charade round, where you can't say anything. You only got to do it gestures. So you act French and wear a hat. I don't know.
I'm not going to ask how you act
but by
French
then you know all the
sometimes.
words that are in there. So yeah, I don't know how you act French. Pretend you're holding a baguette. But yeah, that's going to be played as it has been played. Every Christmas for during my entire life. So
That sounds great.
And as I say, it was a shock when I saw someone had actually made published this game, which we thought was just our family did this, and then they published it and sold it.
I should ask for a design credit on that game if I was you, Tom. Phone them up. Phone up the publisher.
I'm not sure I could prove that I designed it.
Okay, cool. Right. Well, thank you both for joining me. It's been a pleasure talking to you both. You can find us on the internet. We are Sheffield Board Gamers. So we're on Facebook. We're on the forum, which is www.sheffieldboardgamers.com. We're on the Twitter. We're on YouTube. Come and play some games with us if you probably not over the holidays. I think we're off now for a couple of weeks because it's going to be tricky to get a couple of game sessions penciled in. But we'll be back in the new year. And thank you very much for listening. And we'll speak to you again soon. Bye for now.
Bye.
Happy Christmas.
And a Merry New Year.